And now we're ready to move on to the accessory organs. The liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas. Liver, gallbladder, pancreas. Now, the liver is a most incredible organ, one of the most incredible organs in the human body. It is the only organ that if there's a good enough, healthy enough piece of it, now I don't know what the magic size dimensions are, if the liver becomes diseased, if there's a big enough section of it still left, whatever the definition of big is, the liver can regenerate itself. And you may have heard of people donating part of their liver to another person. So maybe someone can't wait for a full liver transplant, but they get part of a healthy person's liver, and they're able to, both of them are able to continue on with their lives. So absolutely fascinating. Now, it is the largest gland in the body. It's located under the diaphragm. The hepatocytes, literally cells, the liver cells, make the bile. And the bile, though, is just stored in the gallbladder. Now, the bile is so we can digest fats. And the $5 word for breaking apart the fat is emulsification. Emulsification. The liver converts food nutrients into usable substances, stores glucose as glycogen, secretes bilirubin, which is a pigment that combines with the bile and goes out of the duodenum. It helps with metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, amino acids. Phagocytosis of old red blood cells. Again, we're talking about the destruction of those red blood cells. Detoxification of ammonia, alcohol, and medications. So someone who has abused their liver through drugs and alcohol, the liver might have something to say about that. And also stores vital nutrients, iron, copper, and vitamins A, D, E, K, and B12. So liver, an incredibly important organ. Can't live without it. Now, the gallbladder we can live without. It is a pear-shaped little muscular sac under the liver. Its sole job is a storage device. And so it stores and concentrates the bile that is made by the liver. So the gallbladder is simply a storage device. And it gets a signal when there's more than normal fat in the chyme. And so that's its cue to release the bile. Now again, some people have their gallbladders removed for various reasons. And it used to be the old school of thought was that if someone had their gallbladder removed, that they should really cut down on their fat consumption because they would not have that standby supply of bile ready to be called into action. But I've had several students recently tell me that they specifically asked their physician after having gallbladder surgery, should they cut down their fat content, and the physician's like, nah, it doesn't matter. So you do your research and you decide. I don't know. Common sense tells me that that gallbladder was there for a purpose. And so something needs to change if that organ is no longer there. But that's my personal opinion. All right, so the gallbladder, the hepatic duct from the liver and the cystic duct from the gallbladder, they merge to become the common bile duct. So those two things join together. So again, if you lose your gallbladder, there's still a duct, a channel from the liver. So it's just you don't have any excess storage. So the common bile duct connects the liver and the gallbladder to the duodenum, to the duodenum. And so as this bile travels from the cystic duct to the common bile duct to the duodenum, the duodenum. So as you can see, there's the gallbladder. Now the liver in this illustration has been retracted so you could see the gallbladder. There's a tube from the liver, a tube from the gallbladder. They join together to make the common bile duct. Now, the pancreas, when you look at the pancreas, some people say it looks like a feather. Some people say it looks like a jalapeno. And it has two great big purposes. In this chapter, it's the pancreatic juices are for food digestion. So that juice includes amylase and lipase and some other enzymes so that we can digest food. Now, next semester, we'll learn more about the pancreas as an exocrine and an endocrine gland. But everyone knows, hopefully, that the pancreas is the gland that makes insulin. And and someone with insulin problems, for whatever reasons, diabetes. So a couple of kinds of diabetes caused by, related to your pancreas and insulin. All right, so again, looking at a different illustration of the pancreas. Again, two big functions, insulin and pancreatic juices for digestion. Keep it simple this semester. Sphincters. You must know your sphincter. Something about the word sphincter is just weird to say, but fun to say. So, know the cardiac sphincter is the LES, the lower esophageal sphincter. Lets food into the stomach and is supposed to keep food from going back into the esophagus. But if you've ever had heartburn, you know your LES was just not quite cooperating. Pyloric sphincter at the base of the stomach regulates food going from the stomach into the small intestine, the duodenum. The ileocecal is at the junction of the ileum and the cecum. And so it's to prevent that solid waste from flowing back into the small intestine. And the anal sphincter controls the solid waste elimination from the rectum, the straight part of the large intestine. Now, some signs and symptoms. Achlorhydria, you can imagine someone literally the absence of that hydrogen chloride stuff, that acid. Anorexia, in this chapter, is talking about someone's lost their appetite. Aphasia, they're not able to eat or swallow. Ascites, borborygmus, is those stomach noises. Constipation, you know what that is. Diarrhea, I'm sure you know what that is. Dyspepsia, indigestion. Dysphagia, difficulty swallowing. Emaciation, someone is thin because they're not getting proper nutrients. Emaciation. Emesis, you know, means throwing up, vomiting. Eructation, well, that just sounds like belch. That sounds like belch. And again, I don't know what it is. Some people find it amusing to be able to belch the alphabet and Star Spangled Banner by burping. I haven't figured that one out. Eructation, belching. Flatus and flatulence, a nice way to say that is passing gas. Gastroesophageal reflux, you know, the fluids are backing up. Icterus or jaundice, it's turned yellow. Melena, not melena. Make sure you know this. Melena, not melena. Melena is actually a girl's name. So, melena, it sounds pretty. Melena. So that's a pretty girl's name. So a pretty girl's name, however you want to look at it. But melena, just sounds harsher. So melena versus melena. And melena is dark blood in the stool or dark blood vomit. And so that's bad. Melena is not a good thing. So might look like tar. Nausea, you know what that is. Pruritus ani. So pruritus. We are just itching for you to write us. And in this person's case, they're itching around their anus. Steatorrhea, you know, is diarrhea with excess fat content. Vomit and vomitus, you know what that is. Achalasia, that's a term you might not know. Decreased mobility of the lower 2/3 of the esophagus. I'm actually going to let you get away with just knowing that achalasia is a disease of this chapter. An anal fistula, for future reference, a fistula is an abnormal opening between two things. So I remember fistula by thinking of if someone put their fist through some drywall in someone's house, then there would be an opening, an abnormal opening between those two rooms. So a fistula. Aphthous stomatitis is canker sores. I can't keep canker sores and cold sores separate, so I won't ask you. Celiac disease, celiac meaning abdomen, but actually what's going on, someone has difficulties with wheat products. Chronic polyposis is polyps. You may have a family history of people having polyps in the colon. Polyps are by definition benign, but we're always afraid that they might become cancerous. Cirrhosis, you've heard of cirrhosis of the liver, hardening of the liver, turns yellow. And colorectal cancer, you know what that is. Cholelithiasis, gallstones. Crohn's disease. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to talk about this disease, but it is very common. Well, I don't know about very common. You hear more and more people have it, and really makes life difficult. Dental caries. Do know that dental caries is the $5 term for cavities. So do know dental caries is cavities. Diverticular disease, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, the diverticulum, those blind pouches. There seems to be a family history for a lot of folks, and they're instructed to, cut out the nuts, the seeds, the popcorn, and things like that. So that would be hard. Imagine going to a baseball game and not being able to have some peanuts or popcorn. Dysentery. I mean, look at that. There's intro talking about the intestines. So dysentery, typically we're talking about water and food and unsanitary conditions. Esophageal varices. Varices means twisted. Hemorrhoids. I'm sure you know what those are. Hepatitis, hernia. Herpetic stomatitis, I will not ask you that those are cold sores. Hirschsprungs, just be able to put it in the category. Now, ileus, think of S for stoppage. So ileum with an I in the middle is the largest hip bone. Ileum with an E in the middle is the last part of the small intestine. But ileus with an S at the end, think of a stoppage, a blockage. Intussusception, just be able to put it in the category, but again, the bowel is kind of telescoping. IBS, if you don't know what IBS stands for, make sure you do. Oral leukoplakia, you can imagine there are these white plates in the mouth. Pancreatitis, you would know inflammation of the pancreas. There are different peptic ulcers. Periodontal disease, thrush, stomatitis, ulcerative colitis, volvulus, just be able to put them in the right category. Pathologies of the digestive